Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. Well, the Packers news is all abuzz about Josh Jacobs talking about wide receivers. Apparently, this has stirred some kind of a controversy. I haven't done enough digging to find out what people are upset about. I don't know. I don't care enough to really find out what the arguments are. But to lay the groundwork, why don't we go ahead and play this? Cheesehead TV was nice enough to put together a little mashup of all the different comments Josh Jacobs had to say about the wide receiver room. So let's play that first, and then we'll go from there.
I think we need another DN.
Okay.
I think we need another DB, and then I think we need a wide receiver, a real wide receiver.
Miles Garrett,
A real wide receiver.
Yeah, like I love the guys that we have in the receiving room. They all have potential to be one,
right.
But we need a guy that's proven to be one.
Right, command some double.
Do you think you need to add a piece? Like I'm thinking you're.
I think we need like three.
I don't know if you know this, Josh.
Yeah.
You're that like I'm like the front office. You know that, right? I brought you Xavier McKinney. I have Davante Adams on my show every week, as you know, your former teammate.
Yeah.
Would you welcome a return of Davante Adams to Green Bay?
Most definitely. I think he's an amazing receiver, amazing person. Obviously, I would want to see what it would cost us. But I do think that we have a spot for him. For sure.
You have a spot. What would he bring to that?
Then obviously we got a really young group of receivers. All can be really, really, really special, but I think personally we need a guy that's proven to be a number one already. So somebody that's we know is going to be a little bit more consistent.
That maybe played here before?
If he come at the right price, tell him to slide.
So, man, Josh Jacobs is at this point, he's basically a Green Bay Packers podcaster that just so happens to play for the team. I mean, I've never, ever in my time noticed a play. I mean, and that is becoming popular, by the way. The players becoming podcasters, just kind of telling every single thought that they have. So I guess maybe it's unusual for me, but it's been going on for a while. I don't know. The closest we've had is Aaron Rodgers kind of being a little guarded and giving some of his sort of thoughts. But I mean, this is the most, and I said it after the season with him and Tucker Kraft and whatnot, just being how much I appreciated him just being brutally honest. And, we're asking, who's he talking about? Now he's just coming out and he's like, look, man, we need some help. And usually, I mean, players don't usually say that because they don't want to, upset their teammates. They don't want it to come across as being, harsh toward their teammates or whatever. He doesn't give a crap. He's like, yeah, you guys need some help? Like, oh yeah, we need help. We need a pass rusher for sure because those guys suck. A DB, he's probably obviously talking about corner, and a wide receiver. It's like Dontavian Wicks quote tweeted it and did like 5 laughing, crying faces and a thumbs down or something to that effect. And I don't know if he's talking about him being the number one wide receiver or just kind of defending the wide receiver room as a whole. But I really appreciate, because listen, it's not like he's saying anything that we don't know, right? We understand the situation. We could probably even add a couple, Could grab another offensive lineman, would be cool. He probably doesn't. Of all the people he doesn't want to talk bad about, the offensive line is probably number one. But could go with some offensive line help to get Josh Jacobs a little bit of space. We could add some stuff. But I do love that, and the thing that's standing out the most to people, and it's what's come up the most. But it's the idea that we need a true number one. Now, for me, I'm looking at that, and again, I don't want to say I've agreed because I'm torn on it. I do agree that we don't have a number one. I've said that for a while now. I would, of course, like a number one. I guess my only hang up is I don't know that fixes everything, but we definitely don't have one, and it would be nice to have one. That's why I was kind of shocked the world when I said I'd be fine with bringing T. Higgins in as our wide receiver one. But Man, it is refreshing to just hear a player just be honest. You know, it's funny too because I see some of the players like Jaden Reed or whatever getting upset, like how dare you guys trash your own players on your own team or whatever. And it's like, well, sorry, dude, but that is sort of fandom. You know what I mean? Not saying it's always correct, but there's you like the people that make your team good, and you don't like the people that make your team not super good. But then you got Josh Jacobs out there just flat out being like, yeah, wide receivers are. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like our guys, but we got to get somebody that is, you know, better. I like that guy a lot. And look, it's not to say that he's right about everything. I mean, she's just given his perspective like anybody else would give their perspective on stuff. Who knows? I think one of my favorite things in addition to all that is when he said, for the right price. I love everything about what he's saying and the honesty of it. And then on top of that, he's also the only player that I haven't heard basically say, well, it can't just be a blank check. Everybody's just going to, every single player, would you want Davante here? Oh, absolutely. Whatever you got to do, get him in here. You got to do whatever you got to do. Josh Jacobs is like, for the right price. I'm not going to overpay for the freaking guy, but, he's acting like the GM / Packers podcaster, right? YouTuber, whatever. He's just, what he's being is realistic, and I'm not used to that from players. It's part of the reason I get annoyed with when players come out and say stuff and then people pretend that players are authorities. And it's like, players are the least honest people on planet Earth. They always defend players. They always defend their teammates. Josh Jacobs is not doing that from either perspective. He's not defending his teammates. Not just blanket defending everybody. He's not also on the other side saying, well, we need help. And I expect the GM to go out and just write a blank check to get everybody and anybody. And no, he's like, for the right price, we go get Davante, sure. You don't write a blank check for a guy like Davante, but, if he's willing to be reasonable, sure, we'd be willing to bring him in, have a little sit down with him, see if he's worthy of being in our presence. Josh Jacobs is cool, man. I like Josh. Here's the full comments on that Davante Adams thing with K. Adams.
Would you welcome a return of Davante Adams to Green Bay?
Most definitely. I think he's an amazing receiver, amazing person. Obviously, I would want to see what it would cost us. But I do think that, we have a spot for him. For sure.
You have a spot. What would he bring to that offense to the team, knowing the kind of man he is?
He's a great leader. He practices hard. He does things that I'll tell people. I remember one year I may have only seen him drop 2 passes at practice the whole year. Like, he's one of them guys that he's going to put the work in. He's going to lead the younger guys the right way. He's going to give you nuggets that you can't really coach. And the way that he sees the game is just different.
As a bonus, here's Josh Jacobs talking about Jordan Love. And again, it's nice because I believe what he's saying. It's not to say he wouldn't just say nice things, or that he would avoid saying mean things, but it means nothing to me when people who blatantly lie tell me stuff. Josh Jacobs has been brutally honest about stuff, so when he speaks, I'm going to want to listen.
What you thought Jordan Love was like and what he's really like then and
Man, the thing that stood out the most is the way the ball come out his arm. Like, he be spinning the ball. And I think that was the biggest thing, like watching film on him, before coming. But then actually getting into practice with him, I'm like, oh, yeah, this dude got it. He definitely got it. I think it's about just putting it together on a consistent basis for him. But when he figure it out, man, he's gonna be special.
So, he did add in there once he figures it out. So I don't know that I would feel any differently about it. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Love and his talent level and whatnot. Josh Jacobs still has confidence in him. I think the team still has confidence in him, and that's good. And it's for good reason. He's a really talented football player, really talented thrower of the football. But he does still have to kind of figure it out. And yeah, I'm hopeful that we get some receiver help, and I'm hopeful that does help Jordan Love. It's a bit of a stretch for me, but who's to say that the ball didn't go where it was supposed to go because the receiver was supposed to run slightly differently or something. I don't, who knows? I don't know. Rising tide lifts all ships. As things get better, things get better. So it's been fun listening to Josh Jacobs do the media circuit, and it is funny that he's become the face of the franchise, having been here for a year. I haven't seen even Jordan Love, much less, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Jair, obviously. None of the receivers, none of the offensive linemen, Josh Jacobs. So again, I don't know what people are fighting about when it comes to this, but it's probably something stupid. Feel free to call in if there's an angle that I missed, but I am excited. There's a lot of options out there. I was, I don't know if we'll get into it today or not, but was kind of looking through some of the potential trade candidates, and I had mentioned how incredibly unlikely it is that Garrett Wilson ends up getting traded, but it is a recurring theme over and over and over again. Interestingly enough, it seems to be tied to whether or not Aaron Rodgers returns, and it's not in the way that you might think. The thought process is, if Rodgers returns, Garrett Wilson is going to demand a trade. He doesn't like being there with Aaron Rodgers. Apparently, they had a big spat. He was not happy with the lack of times Aaron Rodgers targeted him. Surprise, surprise. And so, interestingly enough, it seems as though if the Jets decide to move in a new direction without Rodgers, which is the most likely, then Davante Adams would become available. Presumably, I don't know that. If they decide to bring back Rodgers, then you potentially have Garrett Wilson deciding he doesn't want to be there anymore. I can't imagine you'd get both, although Garrett Wilson is generally unhappy anyways. There's a lot of guys now just looking, saying, I don't see any path to success here, and I'm tired of this, and I hate this, and I don't have a quarterback, and we don't have a franchise, and this is stupid, and I want out of here. But again, the point is lots of bodies and lots of opportunities. So first things first, we got to find out who is going to remain a free agent. And all of this is going to be over the next month. March 12th, I believe, is the first day that teams can sign with new teams. March 13th is when teams can begin trading. But March 10th is the legal contact period. So that's when you can start actually talking with other people and agents and everything else. And again, we all understand that there's a lot of conversations that are happening off the books. That's why these things happen so rapidly. But yeah, March 10th, we're going to start hearing news about players going to new teams. So, we got a month. But all right, let's take our first break. We'll come back and we got some more news and notesy stuff. We'll do a little bit of NFL draft. We'll get up out of here. Take a break. We'll be right back. So continuing on that, couple things. First of all, I mentioned how we got, another month to kind of wrap our head around this, kind of understand the field, and then it's all bets are off. But between now and then, some things are going to happen that are going to inform our understanding of things. One of which, obviously, is free agents being re-signed by their teams so that they're not available. That's going to take some people off this pretty big list. On top of that, guys looking for potentially being traded, getting new contracts. T. Higgins, I saw recently talk from Joe Burrow, and it's all just empty talk. It doesn't mean much. Of course, like everything, it's being used to say, see, T's staying. Like, okay, whatever. But Joe Burrow was on a show of some kind, I don't remember what it was, talking about, how they got a really good group together, and they want to keep that group together. And he was asked, would you be willing to restructure your deal in order to keep T. Higgins? And he said, of course. So, all these little things, if you see Joe Burrow restructure, okay, we might be losing T from our group. We'll see if we get any Rodgers news. I doubt it. That'll probably take some time. Davante Adams is kind of an interesting one. I just saw here, Clayton just posted this. Per Ian Rappaport, the Jets have not spoken with Davante Adams since hiring new head coach Aaron Glenn. That's a big deal. One of the first things that a new head coach does, and maybe he's just a garbage head coach, one of the first things you do is you reach out to your players, especially your superstars. You that day should be reaching out to Aaron Rodgers. That day you should be reaching out to Sauce Gardner and Davante Adams. The guy's been a coach now for over a week and has not reached out. I mean, and not only has, Aaron Glenn not reached out, nobody from the Jets has reached out. So, I understand it's a unique situation where they have to kind of decide what they're doing. But I think just as a gesture, it would have been smart to reach out and say, hey, because they technically are on your team right now, unless everybody's already on the same page that this is not happening. But the point is, there are signals that we can get over this next month that can kind of help us to understand potentially what's going to be going on. One of the things, this was brought up by Ken Ingalls, he says, the Packers can create almost $74 million in additional cap space in an afternoon of paperwork if they wanted to. And he lays that all out here. We'll go through this a little bit. But he goes on to say they don't need to restructure anybody for cap space this season. That's the important part. You don't want to restructure if you don't have to. So he goes on to say, so if we see it, it means they're getting ready to spend. So that's going to be another thing to keep an eye on over this month. Remember, there is no reason in the world for them to restructure. They are not over the cap. They are not in a tough salary cap situation in any way whatsoever. Everything is perfectly fine. So if they start pushing money around, that means they're saying we have this much money and we need more. And even if that doesn't mean, because, again, technically you can't know what you're doing yet. You're not supposed to be talking to anybody. At the very least, it signals a willingness. They're looking at it saying, if best case scenario, we get Myles Garrett and this person and this person, how much money do we need? So you got to start having those conversations with guys, reaching out saying, what would you be willing to do, this, that, or the other. Anyways, here's a couple of the different things that they can do. So there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, like 16-ish players here. And then there is simple restructure and max void restructure. So for the simple restructures, the Packers don't have to ask anything. They just swipe a pen and it's done. Here is the money that they can free up. $1.4 million off of Keyshawn Nixon's contract. And this, remember, this all assumes that we're just talking restructure. We're not getting rid of any of these guys or anything like that. These are simple restructures. $1.4 million from Keyshawn Nixon. $4 million from Josh Jacobs. $5.2 Elton Jenkins. $6.9 Xavier McKinney. $5 million from Kenny Clark. About $10 million, just a simple restructure. $10 million Jair Alexander. $9.7 Rashawn Gary. $9 million for Jordan Love. If you're doing max void restructure, so we're using the maximum with all the void years and everything, this would need to be a sit down with the players. You've got Malik Willis, you can get $250,000. Christian Watson, $700,000. 1.7, let's just call it $1 million to $2 million in that range from Rasheed Walker, Kingsley Enagbare, Zach Tom, Romeo Dobbs, Sean Ryan, Devontae Wyatt, and Quay Walker. You can get 2.2 from Keyshawn, 4.7 from Jacobs, 8.4 from Elton, 8.2 from McKinney, 6 from Kenny, 12 from Jair, 11.6 from Rashawn, 8.6 from Jordan. Now again, you don't want to do this if you don't have to, but they essentially have as much money as they want. If they genuinely feel a sense of desperation, and remember, we're just talking about 2025. I can't speak to 2026, 2027, 2028 in terms of how these contracts moving forward are going to be set up. I can't promise you that in 4 years, 3 years, whatever, they're going to be in a great cap situation after we start paying some other people. I have no idea. But for 2025, they have essentially unlimited money to sign as many people as you want, especially when you factor in that they usually pay very little of the average, as a percentage of the average in year one. I mean, what did he say here? They can create $74 million of additional cap space. If you factor in that, let's just say it's 25%. So in other words, if we paid somebody $20 million in year one, it would be like $5 million. You can multiply 74 plus however much we already have times 4. So they could sign about $400 million worth. Again, that's we're just talking this year, and obviously that's not something that would ever happen. I'm just saying there's no limit. There's no limit. There's no, I wonder if they can afford that. Not for 2025, there isn't. All right, but on that note of adding people, kind of circling back to the comments about wide receiver 1 and whatnot. Here is the answer that I'm a little bit more used to. Here's Jordan Love being asked that same question after Josh Jacobs' comments.
How do you see this young group, and are there advantages in not having a number 1?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think we have different guys that can play and do different things better than other guys. And I think we have a wide or a deep receiver room. Obviously, like you mentioned, Tucker Kraft.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. It's just, this is like the diplomatic coach speak nonsense. Yeah, I mean, we got guys that do things and things that do guys, and you know, they jump and they run and they catch and they spin, and guys with names that start with B and C and A and all the letters and colors of the rainbow that fling and fly and flip. I mean, it's like Dr. Seuss word salad nonsense.
But I think we got a lot of guys that can grow into that role. And I think we're still young. We're still building this thing, and guys are still proving themselves. So, Josh, he made those comments, and I'm always right for my guys. I love the guys we have. I always say, if you add good players to an already good offense, I think you can make it a better team.
So potential.
Okay, so just to try to track all that, he goes on to say we got guys that do things and they're good at stuff. Also, we're still young and we're still learning. Sorry. It's been, how many years now that Watson and Dobbs and even Reed has been 2 years, and like I'm whatever, dude. But then he adds in, but I'm always going to defend my guys. So he didn't directly say it, but also put in the caveat that, obviously I'm going to defend my guys. So disregard everything I just said, because no matter what, I'm going to defend my guys. Okay, cool. Then he adds in, and on the other hand, if you add a good player to an already good offense, it's going to do good things or something like that, which I don't know what the heck that means. But kind of agreeing a little bit, like, we're pretty good. And like, if you add somebody that's really good, then it'd probably be pretty good. I mean, I'm not saying anything about my guys because they're great and they jump and they fling and they fly and we're young and we're this and we're that. And I'm going to defend my guys. But also, like, if you did do it, it might be a good thing, but like, you don't have to because we're good. But if you did, it would be good. Bro, get the microphone away from him.
Potential number 1 wide receiver that could be available in free agency, T. Higgins. What would your thoughts be on adding him to your already talented roster?
Yes.
Like I said, T's a phenomenal player. Yeah. I know T pretty well, and like I said, if you add a really good player to a really good offense, I think the sky's the limit. You could take it some pretty cool places.
Yeah. So, okay. And I'm not trying to make fun of Jordan. That is the answer that we've been hearing from every player and every coach since forever, until, everybody got a podcast and started being honest about stuff, which I like. But, you listen to people be honest, and then you listen to that, and it's like, Jordan, I don't know. I honestly don't know what Jordan thinks. I have no idea. Deep down in his soul, if he believed that his receivers are not good enough, would he ever say that? No. However, is it possible that he believes that his guys are good enough and they don't really need anybody, but I'll take it if you want to give it to me? Yeah, it's possible, but I have no idea. And again, he basically flat out told us that, I'm going to defend my guys anyway, so it doesn't, whatever. So, just... Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that. All right, let's take our final break. When we come back, there's some NFL news I want to go over, and then a little bit of NFL draft. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, so biggest news. Bears principal owner Virginia McCaskey passed away at the age of 102 years old. I've said numerous times, there are always things that are bigger than football. I know the poor old woman has been battered by her own fan base for a long time for the failure of the team, although I guarantee this woman probably has really almost never had anything to do with what this team is doing, especially recently. But obviously hoping the best for her family and whatnot. Obviously at 102, it's not a shock. It's one of those things where nobody asked what happened, you know what I mean? But it's quite a thing to make it that long, and hopefully she has enjoyed it. As many people pointed out, as much as it makes me sick to have to say it, The last play that she saw for the Chicago Bears was a game-winning field goal against the Green Bay Packers to beat the Packers. I'm not saying I'm okay with it or that I'm happy, but if we can all agree that is the last time that that's going to happen over the next decade, then I guess I'm happy that was, the thing that happened to happen. Okay, fine. We'll give them one for Virginia, all right? Oh, jeez. Frickin' Twitter, I swear. I just had to scroll down into the comments. I said nobody would ask what happened. Literally, the first comment is cause of death, ? Oh, these people. Oh, and they just get worse than that. Okay, never mind. We're getting out of here. I'm not reading any more comments. Jeez. Just the worst people. What else we got? So, some NFL news. A lot of talk about expansion and in all different directions. In New Orleans for the Super Bowl, Roger Goodell's there. He's part of the media circuit and whatnot. He had mentioned that, not very strong language, but I do think there's potential that someday we're going to have an international franchise. He said global is something that we're intent on becoming a global sport. Now, I don't know how much I like that idea or that vision. Not a fan of Goodell, obviously, as you know, but it's the direction we're going, and we'll see what ends up happening. But he says, if we do, it would not surprise me at all if the Super Bowl follows and is played there. Obviously, if we expand, there's going to be Super Bowls and drafts and all kinds of stuff. So one thing that's going to suck about it, well, there's several things that are going to suck about it, but if they do intend on making this some kind of a global thing, for a fact these foreign countries are going to get all the benefits. They're going to get all the love. They're going to get anything and everything. They're going to get, the best stadiums, the best. They're going to get, benefits for getting players, and they're going to get enticed with Super Bowls and just every event. It's going to be kind of obnoxious, but it could be cool. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. In addition to that, they will be playing in Australia in 2026. Here is some random doofus announcing that.
2026, we will play our first ever regular season game in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, as part of a multi-year commitment to play games in the city of Melbourne.
Okay. So Australia is going to be added to the circuit. He already went on to say, as you heard him say, this is not going to be a one-time thing. They're committing to multiple games being there. The Rams apparently will be the home team in 2026. I had heard that it was going to be the Eagles, but the Rams do not play the Eagles at home in 2026. So it's either going to be obviously one of their division rivals, probably not. Dallas Giants, Chiefs, Chargers are the teams that I can see listed here as their opponents. And then finally, when it comes to expansion, the NFLPA has come out and said that they have no intention of playing an 18th game, to which I just laughed to myself at that funny joke. I understand the NFLPA has no desire to play an 18th game. They do not want to play an 18th game, just like they didn't want to play a 17th game, just like they don't want to have to travel to other countries to play. Guess what's going to happen, though? You're going to play an 18th game. That's going to happen. So, I don't know if it's just being honest or a negotiating tactic or wishful thinking or what, but the NFL Players Association is attempting to put its foot down and say no 18th game, and there's going to be an 18th game. I'm very sorry to tell you that. As long as Roger Goodell is captaining this ship, I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but I can tell you that he has been moving at lightning speed, not so much with the refs, but when it comes to expansion and going to other countries and adding games and all that stuff, dude is he's not messing around. But all right, here is our NFL draft exercise of the day. I want to look at picks 15 through 50. 15 through 50 is 36 picks. I'm viewing that as sort of the Packers' potential first-round pick. Doesn't have to be. Things can change, whatever. But I went as high as James Pierce, the edge rusher out of Tennessee. I think it's possible. Above him was Malachi Stark. Some other guys that could be possible, but I wouldn't see us taking a safety anyway. So I felt this was a good spot to go. I want to look at the different prospects because it's kind of crazy how many of these are really solid positions. I mean, they are positions of need and also not just random, like, nonsense positions, you know? I mean, these are edge rush and whatnot. So I just want to run through the position. I'm just going to read them off real quick, just as our first exercise. Edge, receiver, tackle, edge, tight end. We'll just say guard for interior offensive line because that's longer to say. Defensive line, receiver, edge, corner, tackle, corner, defensive tackle, wide receiver, linebacker, safety, quarterback, edge, tackle, D tackle, guard, edge, guard, quarterback, tackle, cornerback, guard, running back, wide receiver, edge. How many of these 36 different prospects do we not have interest in? We could, I don't even want to do that. I was going to say the tight end. Let's just wait on that. It's not a definite no, it's a probably no. Let's just get rid of Jihad Campbell is a linebacker. We'll go ahead and get rid of that guy. Nick Emanwari, South Carolina safety. Don't think so. Jalen Milroe, quarterback. Jackson Dart, quarterback. Omarion Hampton, running back. And I think that's it. That is it. Now, I will get rid of tight end because I don't think that it's as serious of a need that we would do it. I understand that some people would argue, and that's fine. We'll put it in the probably not category. First of all, he's probably gone already. Second of all, I don't see it. But okay, so let's go with that. If you get rid of everybody that really doesn't make a ton of sense, because sometimes you're looking at it and it's like, man, there's only 2 or 3 guys that kind of would make sense. Out of the 36, there are 30 that make sense. We have, right now, we're looking at 4 potential corners. That is Benjamin Johnson, cornerback out of Notre Dame, Siobhan Revel, cornerback out of East Carolina, Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas, and Azaria Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State. Then we have defensive tackle. I think that is absolutely first. So cornerback and defensive tackle, premium positions in my opinion, and positions the Packers absolutely need to address. Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, talked about him 1,000 times yesterday. Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Derek Harmon, we've talked a lot about, out of Oregon. And Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. Then, and this is where you start to see how things are shaping up and what the Packers are probably going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 edge rushers. James Pierce out of Tennessee, Jalen Walker out of Georgia, Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M, Nick Scorton, Texas A&M, Mike Green out of Marshall, Jack Sawyer, Ohio State, Princely Umanlalen, I don't know how to say his name, out of Ole Miss, Landon Jackson, Arkansas, and JT Tuimalau out of Ohio State. It's crazy to think, and some of these guys are second-round picks. They might even fall to the third. Who knows? This is consensus big board within the top 50. But it's crazy to think you kind of have to look at the top 10 edge rushers just to see the potential first-round picks for the Packers. There are a lot of times I'll only do about 10 for a position. That's wild, man. Then, probably a little less likely because it's not a premium position, but still, if they wanted to go that direction, there's a lot of options. Interior offensive lineman. Tyler Booker out of Alabama. Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. Jonah Savanea out of Arizona. And the big name right now, Gray Zabel, North Dakota State. On top of that, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tackles. Who knows how many of these are official tackles or if they're going to swing inside or whatever. But Josh Simmons, Ohio State. Armand Membo, Missouri. Josh Connerly, Oregon. Arianti Ursary, Minnesota. And Cameron Williams out of Texas. And then 4 wide receivers, Luther Burden, Emeka Ibuka, Matthew Golden out of Texas, Trey Harris, Ole Miss. A lot of Ole Miss guys. This is a heck of a group. And I hate to be that dude because I know everybody wants to move up. But man, when you look at between 15 and 50, the pile of guys, if you can get 2 picks in this range, if you can move back to the back of the first and get maybe an additional second in the top 50, technically that would be 3 picks in the top 50. If you can get 1 additional pick in there, do you know how awesome that would be? And on top of that, who is it in this draft? And maybe you got a guy. Who is it in this draft at 23 you're looking at going, man, we got to move up and get that guy because that's a freak? Who is it? Because I'm seeing right now, for example, Mike Green is starting to go in like the 12, 13, 14, 15 conversation. Do you want to trade up for Mike Green? I'm not even sure I like him at 23. I'm probably crazy. I get that. But do I want to package and move up when we have all these other edge rush options that are just sitting there? No. In fact, I'd be more willing to move back and still get one and get someone else, Now, again, it always is going to depend. Because we can look at the top 50, but we could also say that, it's my estimation right now. Again, I'm not a huge Jahdae Barron fan. Statistically, he's fantastic. Watching him and looking at him as potentially a slot corner doesn't get me super excited. But Benjamin Morrison doesn't get me super excited. I have not watched Azaria Thomas yet. But it's one thing to say there's 4 of them in the top 50, so as long as you can get one, that's cool. It's another thing to look at it and go, yeah, but I want Siobhan Revel, and I really want Revel, and I don't really care about the rest of the guys. So it's always going to come down to, where do you draw that line, and who's on that side of the line and who's on this side of the line. But, man, if you've got an opportunity, let's say there's like 4 guys on this list that are super impressive and we don't get any of them. Okay, cool. Let's start talking about moving back and getting 3 of the remaining guys would be my preference. Again, you got to go through it. You got to actually look at it and see. For some people, there might be a drop-off after, 27, it really falls off, depending on your personal estimation of things or evaluation of things. But it has got to get you excited to realize, like I said, out of the 36 picks between 15 and 50, 30 of them come at major positions of need for the Green Bay Packers. And 26 of those come at somewhat premium positions, depending on how you feel about, defensive line, wide receiver, whether that fits into that category. But, you got 9 edge rushers, 5 tackles, 4 corners, 4 receivers. There is a lot of value just sitting here. So I don't know about you, but these are kind of the guys that I feel like I want to really make sure that I have a firm feeling about, because these are the ones that I guess I would say I would be surprised if the Packers pick wasn't one of these 30. And we could probably start to whittle down from here some other guys that are maybe not necessarily great fits. Again, I'm iffy on Jahdae Barron and whether the Packers would want to go that route. Hilariously, that is the when you look at the projection of these players, the Jahdae Barron is projected to the Packers at 23, which I think is hilarious because that's the one I look at and go, I don't know about that. Same with Emeka Egbuka. I don't know if that's a great fit for the specific needs of the Packers. So we can probably whittle a few more down, but I think assuming the Packers make a pick and don't trade it away or trade out, and even if they trade out, they're, still. But I would be surprised if the first pick didn't come from this group right here. All right, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one. Bye-bye.